Hello, welcome back to the channel. What another glorious day it is too. It's a perfect day to be having another little look at the valve shims. Now, in the last video, I went through and checked all the shims and noticed that some of them were out of tolerance. Some needed to be replaced, some needed to be switched. I've worked all of that sort of sciencey maths out. And big thank you to Wemoto for really quick delivery. My shims have arrived. They've literally just arrived. So I'm really happy about that. So now I'm in a position to get the shims refitted, double check all of the gaps just to make sure that everything's where I'm happy with and it's within tolerance. And then I can then take a little look at the Camchain tensioner, which I've also noticed is not adjusting. It's an automatic tensioner, so I'm hopeful it doesn't need replacing. It just needs freeing up and sorting. We can get the Camchain tensioner retensioned. I'm not entirely sure exactly how tight a cam chain needs to be, but certainly it needs to be tighter than it currently is. So with a bit of luck, we can get it all buttoned up today and get the bike started. So last week when I was looking at this and making notes, I came up with this solution. So I've just put up an image on the screen and it shows that exhaust number 1 to the left hand side of the page is absolutely fine and within tolerance, so I'm not going to be adjusting those shims at all. Exhaust number 2 on the left side, it needs a 245, on the right side needs a 250. Exhaust 3 and 4 all needs 245, and that will bring the tolerance, or close the gap should I say, which hopefully is the sound that I'm hearing, or the ticking. So that will need adjusting and checking, sorry, not adjusting, it will need checking to make sure that that's all within tolerance. On the inlet side, number 1 was absolutely fine. Number 2, this was the one that I'd mentioned was very tight and I couldn't actually get the feeler gauges in. So what I've done is I've switched the 160 shim on the left side of the inlet, or the left valve of the inlet, and moved it across to serve the right side of the inlet, because that needed to be reduced in size of the shim so the gap would open up, and that did actually bring it within tolerance, so I'm happy with that. Because the left side was so tight, I couldn't actually get a feeler gauge in, so I wasn't entirely sure which shim to order, so I ordered the 120 and the 140 just to give myself some options. So we'll get that fitted and we'll check and see what that is. Wall of the inlet side, number 3, was absolutely fine within tolerance. The shim that I took out of the right hand side of the inlet number 2, so the 180 shim, I moved across to inlet 4 left side. That brought it within tolerance, but it was the wrong end of the tolerance, so I needed to really fit a 185, so that was ordered. So we'll switch that over, and the right hand side of the inlet number 4 is absolutely fine. I do hope you've following all that. It took me a little bit to work out, so I think what we'll do now is we're going to go ahead and fit all these shims and recheck the tolerances. Well, I can absolutely say that was a bit of a faff. I am cautiously happy with what I've read. So turning over the engine and checking all the gaps now, I am just about within the tolerances everywhere. I'm very happy with number 2 on the inlet. That's now measurable, so I can actually read the tolerances. 2, 3 and 4 on the exhaust side, however, I could still probably use a bigger shim, because the gap is still probably just the top end of the tolerance, so there is still some room to play there, so I may need to revisit this at a later date. I am, however, happy to get the top of the engine put back on and get everything rebuilt, and then we can take a little look at the Elucid chain tensioner and see exactly what that's doing and how it's misbehaving. Well, let's crack on. So before I commit to putting the top back on, I am just going to stick a little bit of RTV onto these rubber gaskets here. They are relatively new and they are genuine Kawasaki ones, so they should be good, but I have noticed just one of them just seeps a little bit of oil into the chamber where the spark plug sits, so I just want to make sure that everything is nicely sealed up. So tiny little bit of RTV silicone should deal with that nicely. So we'll get the top of the rocker on and get all that sorted. Right, that's the top of the engine all buttoned up, so I'm more than happy with that. Now I'm going to turn my attention now to the cam chain adjuster, which is this little chap just here. And you can see that my chain is quite loose. I can actually wiggle it from side to side, which is, I'm pretty certain that's not how it should be. So I think what we'll do, we'll have a little look at this mechanism here, which looks like it's a 12mm bolt for the centre plus 2 outer 8s. So I think we'll just get it off first of all and just take a little look and see exactly what's going on with it. So I hope you can see this. So you've got like a, what looks like a ratchet mechanism. I think I'll undo this nut now and take the tension off of it. Okay, so what we've got is a, undo this bolt. What we've got is a spring. Looks like a bar. So there's a bar in there and a washer. So, okay, so looking at the wear markings, I can see where it's been sat. So I think if I adjust it manually, just a few teeth back from where it's been sat, so this technically I think is going to be bigger, and that ought to put more tension on the spring, or more tension on the chain. So yeah, pretty sure that's how it works. So if I move the, you can see, I don't know if you can see there, but there's like a wear line, so that's where it's been covered up, and that's where it's been exposed. So that tells me it's been sitting there for a very long time, and that's not going to put enough tension. So if I move it back just a couple of teeth, we'll fit it and see how tensioned the chain is. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. So I think what I'll do is I'll put this on first. I think what's going to happen, in fact I can do that, and yeah, not quite enough, so we'll move that back a. So what I'm doing is I'm putting it back in, watching it tension the chain and see how much tension it gives. See now the chain's getting a lot tighter, probably a bit too tight, so we'll back it off one. So I'm just adjusting it on the teeth of that ratchet. Till I'm happy with where the tension is. So I'll put the bolts in and we'll see how that sits. This is going to be just a case of trial and error until I'm happy. Well, as happy as I think I know to be. I'm sure there's a a specified way of doing this. Okay, so bit of an update. I've been had that out, in and out loads of times, trying to find where I'm happy, and I think now I am. So there's a tiny bit of play, or a little bit of play on the chain that I can feel, but otherwise it feels taut and as it ought to be. And then I'm now hoping that by putting the spring back in, it should then lock it in place and everything will stay where it needs to be. So you've got a spring, looks like a copper washer, which I probably ought to replace, but hey, there we go. I'll soon find out when it leaks. And that will give, I assume, tension to everything. And we'll just quickly lock this off. I won't really know until I start the bike, but I can always adjust it. Now I know how to do it. So it's, there we go, nice and tight. Still got my little bit of play on the chain, so I'm more than happy with that. So I think now what I'm going to do is get the side engine casing back on, cover, and start fitting all the top parts like the glow coils and everything else, and I'll be back in just a little while. Okay, so the bike's all back together. It's been a bit of a mission. Tank's back on only loosely for the moment. Just wanted to get some fuel into it to start it up, and it's night and day. It's a completely different bike. It sounds amazing. There's no tick. If you ever listened to how it sounded before, this is what it sounds like now. Not a tick in sound, not a tick in sight, I meant to say. So I do hope you find the video useful. It's been a bit of a mission for me, but I've enjoyed it. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of this kind of content, then please do subscribe. It's really useful for me. It really helps the channel. I want the channel to grow. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.